First of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. You've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. The specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices.
Reasonable people would ask, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And how is the government going to be involved in it? Is this just a ploy? Because it sounds kind of like it.
Yes, it is a ploy, and that is all from CNN alone. The Washington Post, the most liberal national paper, I think more liberal for sure than the New York Times, or it's a tie for first. Both the New York Times and the Washington Post, their entire editorial board, released an editorial damning this proposal to regulate grocery prices. One of the columnists in New York, the New York Times, actually wrote, the increased customer demand fueled by stimulus from the government, which means it's her arson that she lit the fire with, her arsonist habits. The increased customer demand fueled by stimulus from the government that Kamala and Joe signed off on. And that is caused the inflation. Most economists, they say, the New York Times says, most economists say those forces are far more responsible than corporate behavior for the rise in prices that period. And then here's the Washington Post editorial board's headline: opinion: when your opponent calls you a communist, maybe don't propose price controls. It's hard to exaggerate how bad Kamala Harris's price gauging, she calls it price gauging, so I'm going to stick with what she calls it, price gauging proposal is. All right, so it is that bad. This is the first major policy she's announced. Here's more from Axios, another left-leaning, very left-leaning news publication. Economists pan Harris's populist policy proposals. Unhelpful, harmful. Between unhelpful and harmful is what most economic policies can be placed on a spectrum, and this one is clearly, they say, unhelpful and harmful. But with her ideas, with this grand plan that she unveiled to do grocery store price controls, with this brand new plan to literally take your money and my money and give it to somebody who is a first-time homeowner, give them $25,000 as a down payment on their first home. Those two major policies that she announced show a tremendous lack of understanding of how the economy works and an incompetence. And it's funny because listening to people all over the weekend on the Wall Street Journal editorial board and all sorts of other experts and such, and then reading what the New York Times, with the Washington Post editorial board, what all these and CNN, all what they say, the question comes up, well, was that her idea? Or was that one of her policy ideas, of advisor ideas, and she just accept it and not even challenge it? I don't know. I think they're both horrible because, I mean, she doesn't know what she's doing. So with that, and with her on the $25,000 down payment that is our money, printing more money that's on your back and my back, these are very destructive policies. It'll make the value of a home go up $25,000. That's going to now be in the deal. Like the seller will jack up the price knowing that you now have $25,000 to put down on their house. And also the limited availability of housing, because a lot of people have the golden handcuffs, is what it's called, where they don't want to leave their home because they have a low mortgage rate. You know, they might want to move to a bigger home or something, but they don't want to because they can't afford the new interest rates, or they don't want to pay the new interest rates. So with the limited housing available, it'll make housing even more scarce, demand much higher, and it'll drive the price of houses up as well. And a lot of people that do not belong in these homes will get into them, and that's why you have the Wall Street Journal writing today, here comes Kamala's mortgage forgiveness. She's going to do mortgage forgiveness for those people who get into homes they don't belong in, they can't afford. And let me tell you something. I've said this. The average mortgage the day Trump left office was $1,700 in this country. It is now $3,300. Freaking $3,300 is the average mortgage. $3,300, from 17 to $3,300. That's Kamalanomics. Kamalanomics. So my question is, how much faith do you have in Kamala to help fight inflation and grocery prices, high grocery prices? How much faith do you have in her to do that? And how wise of a decision do you think it is for Kamala to make high grocery prices and inflation, gimmicks part of her speeches? Actually, how wise is it for her to even mention high grocery prices and inflation in her speeches because of the fact that she caused it? It's stunning when you realize that she personally cast the tying vote for $2.3 trillion and another massive spending, but I can't remember the third one. But this woman is personally responsible for putting literally trillions of dollars of debt on our backs and creating the inflation. And now she says, hire me to be the one to put it out. What do you say here? How much faith do you have in her to do that, to handle it, our economy? How wise of a decision do you think it is for her to mention inflation in her speeches? And how much of an arsonist putting out the fire she started feeling do you have when you see her talking about high grocery prices and inflation? 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. It's amazing, isn't it? Are we that far gone of a people? Are we that far lost to literally look at this woman who caused it? She's one of the chief causes of our inflation. And then believe her that she's going to fix what she broke. It's incredible, isn't it? It's like an abusive relationship. I know I beat you, but I'm going to help you get better now. Well, how about you just don't beat me to begin with, and I won't need to get better, right? 800-288-WBAP. Lines wide open. Chime in right now at 800-288-9227. So, there's another thing that happened today that's breathtaking. Oh, by the way, speaking of Kamalanomics, she is proposing, are you ready for this? I don't know if you caught this today. She's proposing raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. That is going to hurt us, taxpayers. Middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, poverty-stricken people. It's going to hurt us more. And we're going to talk to an expert in that realm, my friend and my sponsor, Randy Martin from IRSprob.com. This is brand new, came out this morning. She's going to raise the corporate tax rate to 28%. How will that affect us? This is a big one, too. This is amazing. So that is coming up next. But do you know what else happened today that's really funny and sad about her? Do you remember when she hired child actors to sit in a room with her and record a video about space? And wow, look at that! And then she said, "Yes, isn't that amazing? We're looking through and we can see space up there with the telescope." Those were child actors. Remember that? She hired child actors. She literally could not do a video about space with children without hiring professional children actors to pretend they're excited. It looks like she may have done the exact same thing again, but this time with adults. I can't wait to tell you about this coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. I'm going to tell you about this. Another thing that just happened in Pennsylvania, where they bust in fake customers and kicked out the real customers in Pennsylvania. And the real customers are madder than heck. That is coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. By the way, we'll get to Andy in Garland. We don't have time for Andy right now, do we? Okay, Andy, you'll be up next at 9:15 as well on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Everything is so expensive nowadays that what do you prioritize? Like, do you prioritize eating over having a home? Do you prioritize having to pay to take a shower somewhere over getting a home?
I think my biggest stressor right now is anything financial.
Well, who got you there? Who put you in this situation? How suddenly are you in this situation 4 years after Kamala and Joe took over? By the way, this is not day one for Kamala. January 20th will not be day one for her. Right now, she's on day 1,350 or so, right around there. This literally is almost the end of her fourth year in office. She personally made this inflation happen. It's amazing. She literally cast a tying vote. And do you know, for several multi-trillion-dollar proposals that have destroyed us, including people like Obama top economist Jason Furman. He said, don't pass that. She did. And he said, don't pass that. It'll cause inflation. And now he says, I told her not to do it. Publicly, he says this. This is who she is. And are the American people stupid enough to vote for the same person that lit this fire that she now says she can put out? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. How much faith do you have in Kamala to help fight inflation and high grocery prices? How wise of a decision do you think it is for Kamala to make high grocery prices and inflation part of her speeches? It's amazing. She's literally helping us when she does that. I mean that, too, by the way. And how much of an arsonist putting out the fire she started feeling do you have when you see her talking about high grocery prices and inflation? I've got a compilation of her saying Bidenomics is working. Bidenomics is working. It's working over and over again. Well, here we are. How did it work? Andy and Garland, you are on WBAP. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, so I think that if she wants to continue to lose, she's going to lose this election, as we all know, but if she continues to bring attention...
She's going to win right now. If it happens today, she wins. I'm serious.
You really? Okay. Well, and what I was going to say is, as long as she keeps mentioning inflation, it's going to remind people what she did wrong.
Yes.
And how she caused all these problems.
Yeah. Okay, so you like her doing that?
Well, I mean, I'm a Trump supporter.
Right on. So do you feel she is the arsonist? Oh, I guess he left. I don't know. We just lost him. All right, Broham. Appreciate your call. But unfortunately, when he said that she'll lose, and everybody knows it, or we all know it, no. That's where we're at right now in this country. I shared earlier in the previous hour about that. And I pray it doesn't happen. But I'm telling you, people are repulsed by Trump when he gets all nasty. It just is what it is. He's got to stop doing what he's doing. And he's got to stop giving hour and a half speeches and give 15-minute, 10 to 20-minute speeches only about policy and how he will change the direction of our country and what he did and what they did. All right, Ken in Arlington. Ken, hello, WBAP.
Hey, Chris. Hey, you know those numbers she threw out of the bread and the ground beef going up higher? That's all true because they weren't in charge 4 years ago. Trump was, so everything was lower. So everything that she quoted saying everything is higher is true too because they were in charge. So they brought up all the prices.
Don't you like how she mentions before COVID hit as if it's Trump's fault?
Right.
But it wasn't, because if she goes back to her day one to right now, her day 1,350 or whatever it is, and you do the prices from there to here, it's that exactly what she's talking about. And so they literally cannot do that because it destroys them. So you do think it helps the more she talks about inflation and high grocery prices and pretends that it's something that she cares about?
Oh, yeah, because everybody remembers 4 years ago where they could buy 2 packs of ground beef.
Right.
Now they can't.
Exactly. Absolutely right, brother. Ken, I appreciate you. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't trust. And I don't even trust her to change the toilet paper on the toilet paper roll. She might do over instead of under.
Well, actually, I agree with that assessment, by the way. But also, she would have this eco toilet paper she would stick us with that would suck and not work.
Right, right. That's who was that comedian that said that disintegrating toilet paper? I don't want to use that disintegrating toilet paper because you don't know how fast it's going to disintegrate.
That's exactly what she would do. Appreciate your call, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Hey, would you pop Randy Martin on? See if we can pop him on now. Go ahead. It's my fault. It's late last minute, but go ahead and call him, and we'll see if we can pop him on to see what he thinks about this brand new proposal today that came out. 28% tax on businesses, raising the corporate tax rate by 7%, and what it'll do to us. By the way, the number of credit card and auto loans transitioning into serious delinquency is increasing per the Fed. And I have a map or a chart. I'm going to hold it up for if you are watching me on Facebook Live, you can see this yourself. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram at Chris Crock Show. That's at Chris Crock Show, CHRISKR. So if you look at this, the transition into serious delinquency, which is, I guess, 90 plus days, and you look at the loan type, it is stunning. Student loans collapsed because Kamala paid for them with our money, And credit cards is skyrocketing, and auto loan default are the both skyrocketing. Randy Martin, my friend, my CPA from IRSprob.com. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. What will happen if Kamala gets her way and passes a 28% tax rate on corporations? How will this affect business and consumers?
Yeah, so I mean, you got to look at they're at 21% right now. Trump took them down from he took a system that had just all types of rates for different. It was a very complicated system and took it all down to 21% for large corporations. So she wants to take it up to 28. That I mean, if you look at it, that's a 33% increase on taxes.
Wow.
For a lot of these corporations, tax is already their largest single expense. As a matter of fact, for most tax-paying Americans, tax is our largest expense as well.
Wow.
Imagine it going up 33% in your house. I don't know.
Oh, no, it would destroy me. Well, at least it would hurt me badly. It wouldn't destroy me, I should say, but it would hurt badly. It would hurt very badly, yeah.
Right.
All right.
And so the companies are seeing the same thing. They're like, and so they're asking themselves, where are we going to get where are we going to make this up at? Where are we going to get the extra from? Because the shareholders, they still need a return. You've got pension funds that want a return. They want their dividends paid. They want a return for their investment. They need a return for their investment, but yet it's going to be fleecing the companies with a 33% increase to taxes.
Now I want to know when we come back, Randy. Coming up next is. What do you think these corporations are going to do if they have to pay 7% more on taxes, a 33% increase, and how it will affect us consumers, how it will affect our country, and what this will do to jobs in America? Can you stand by to talk about that coming up next?
Most definitely.
All right, Randy Martin from IRSprob.com, one of my sponsors. Randy Martin, IRSprob.com, IRSP.ROB.com continues with me next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3 at 9:33. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. This would be the second major policy announcement from Kamala were she to become the president. She now says she will be raising the corporate tax rate by 33%, as my CPA, my friend, and my sponsor from IRSprob.com, Randy Martin, joins us again on that. Randy, this really is a big deal, isn't it? This proposal to raise corporate tax rate by 7%.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, just as much of a shot in the arm as it was when Trump lowered it to spur our economy into full-blown, full speed ahead. This is going to just have the opposite effect. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that when Trump cut the taxes, it really helped the economy. And so, what's the antithesis for that? It's raising them, and it's especially this size of increase, and it will have the opposite effect.
So, how about consumers? You told me about how this will affect companies, businesses. How will this affect consumers? Like, how will people like you and me and our listeners? How will they be affected by this?
Yeah, well, companies are, especially these, publicly traded companies, the ones that you and I might see on the stock exchange. It's pretty easy to villainize those guys, but what they really are is they're kind of like pass-throughs. They're expecting a certain rate of return for the sales that they get for different types of industries, get different returns. And so if all of a sudden that's cut into drastically, then they need to make up that return somewhere. Shareholders, they don't really care if they're invested in an American company or a foreign company with a much lower tax rate. There's no allegiance there to capital. It'll move to wherever it gets the best return at. So, yeah, you're going to see the U.S. companies suffering relative to the companies in other countries with lower tax rates. The U.S. has historically had one of the highest corporate tax rates.
What is this?
It'll put the damper on the economy.
So they're going to pass along. Are they simply going to pass along corporations this extra cost of doing business by raising taxes 7% on the corporations? Will they then pass this along to us consumers?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that it's going to have a bad effect on inflation. So, something that we already have a problem with right now. Will they be able to pass on every dollar of it? Only time will tell. And the pricing power, it gets into a lot more in-depth analysis to really say. But yeah, it will have an effect on it. Everything else else, constant, prices will increase.
As I'm listening to you, Randy, I'm realizing that this really is a tax on us, isn't it?
Right. It's the same thing that happens whenever they make it more difficult to have cheap energy.
Yes.
And so you have to have a certain percentage of renewables, which are expensive. That's expensive energy.
Yep.
It's an indirect tax again, or the inflation. Inflation is the ultimate indirect tax. It steals away the money that you have. It devalues your money. It devalues your income. So is it an indirect tax? Most definitely.
All right, and last question on this, and actually before I do that, I'm going to jump on something different real fast. This is from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Biden-Harris regulations cost the average American family almost $50,000. It's $47,000 when they talk about all the regulations and such. Do you believe that? Do you believe that's quite possible, that kind of number for regulatory costs per household from their rules finalized during their first term of Kamala Biden?
For the last 4 years, I mean, a large part of my household income goes toward fuel, getting back and forth to work for both my wife and I.
Yeah.
And so I see it there.
They're talking about the regulations that they've passed. So like on new cars and light trucks and hybrids, that puts more than $6,000 on the backs of people because the costs, like you talked about, are being passed along to the consumer in the form of higher auto prices. And that's only a third of all regulatory costs, they say. Collectively, health, labor, telecommunications, consumer finance regulations impose costs that exceed the $6,000 roughly by automobile regulations. So that kind of stuff. The other thing is,
you look at $6,000 a year. That's $500 a month. That's pretty easy for to point to exact things that have increased in price, and just because of the regulations that government's put on them.
And again, companies pass along that, whether it's a tax or more, or having to spend lots more money on new regulations, right? Just more money out of the corporation, they put it on our backs. One more thing. What will this increasing the corporate tax rate by 33%? When you say 33%, that's stunning. When you say 21 to 28%, it sounds pretty bad, but 33% is even worse. What will this do to jobs in America?
Yeah. The biggest effect that it will have on jobs is just a slowdown in the economy. There's this misconception that it's simple. You increase the tax rate by a third, and their thinking on that is that they'll get a third more income.
Right. Voila.
But it's not quite that math. I mean, it's a little bit more calculus in there. It will slow down the economy, so you're not getting that much back in. But now that wasn't your question. Your question was jobs. Now, here again, just as we saw when Trump cut those taxes and it increased hiring, and we were running, right prior to COVID, at pretty much 0% unemployment. It's going to have the opposite effect on that as well. I mean, it will be the opposite of what happened during the first Trump administration.
Go ahead. Yeah. Well, Randy Martin, IRS. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
All right. Well, Randy Martin, IRSprob.com. If folks want to get in touch with you, and why would they want to get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. What we help people out with is people that have an IRS problem, whether they're getting audited, they owe more than they can pay. The IRS is onto them about some back taxes or some type of incorrect tax filing, or if they're just paying too much in taxes as it is, and we're going to get a lot more business out of this tax increase.
Yeah.
They want to give us a call and work on tax planning with us. Our direct line is 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000, or look us up online at IRSPBS.com. IRSPROB.com.
Or IRSprob.com, or they can just look at my hat that I sport every night that says IRSprob.com on it, which is a very nice. I've grown to really like this hat. It's now my most favorite hat I've ever owned because it feels so well. You paid a lot for these hats, didn't you? You said these are very nice hats. So there you go, brother. They got to tax you more, so you don't have any money to buy nice hats for your clients.
I mean, we got to take hats seriously. There's a lot of the wardrobe that can fall by the way, but the hats are.
You're part of the MAHA movement. Make American hats. Wait, huh? What? Oh, well, I'm confused.
Mahaga.
Thanks for coming on tonight, Randy. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, brother.
There he goes. Thanks, brother. Hey, how bad has Kamala and Joe made it? Here we go. From RealClearPolitics.com, numbers don't lie. Women thrived under Trump and suffered under Harris. Real average weekly earnings increased 8.2% under Trump for women, yet decreased 3.9% under Biden-Harris. The unemployment rate for women overall, and for black women in particular, reached a record low during Trump's term. This Real Clear Politics column says, in 2019, the workforce participation gap between men and women shrank to the narrowest in history. Trump's economy made history with the most women in the workforce ever. Nearly 40 million families received an average benefit of $2,200 under Trump's leadership, totaling credits of approximately $88 billion. Then he created the first ever paid family leave tax credit for employees earning $72K or less than $72K, signed into law 12 weeks of paid parental leave for federal workers, largest ever increase in child care and development block grants, expanding access to quality, affordable child care for more than 800,000 low-income families. He also enabled new parents to withdraw up to $5,000 from their retirement accounts without penalty when they give birth or adopt a child. There's a lot more, and it's damning when you look at Trump's policies and how they help women versus Kamala's. Since Kamala was sworn in as vice president, Real Clear Politics says, since she's been sworn in, prices have risen by 19.4%. Since she took office, prices have gone up 19.4%, making it increasingly difficult for women to provide for their families. Single mother of two in Nevada had to sell a car to afford groceries under Biden and Kamala. A mother of two in Michigan had to, quote, think about putting gasoline prices before buying my kids clothes because of Kamala's tie-breaking vote for Biden's radical green energy agenda. I told you she's personally responsible for $2.3 trillion in spending. Do you know that Harris Biden spent more than double what Trump did when he was in office for 4 years? More than double. And there was no COVID emergency. There was no COVID nothing. They did it because they wanted to buy votes and pump our economy with more dollars, which has led to this massive inflation. And Kamala says, you got to hire me. I'll put out the fire now that I started. Okay. Continuing on. Families now need an extra $12,590 annually just to maintain the same standard of living just 3 years ago. Look at this. You have to make almost $13,000 more just to have the same standard of living the day Trump left office. Do you see what they've done to you and to me and to us? The cost of childcare, it goes on. And that's, by the way, that number of $12,590 extra from the day Trump took office is according to Congress's Joint Economic Committee. 67% of parents say inflation has impacted their ability to pay for their children's education, school supplies, and extracurricular activities this past school year. Where's Mama Bear to come out here? Where's Mama Bear? You can't afford to do the things you need to do for your kids or you want to do for your kids anymore. The cost of child care has increased 32% under Kamala Biden. For the average family, 32% increase in child care since 2019. Nearly two-thirds of spending, nearly two-thirds of that are spending 20% or more of their annual income on childcare. So more than 20% in childcare alone for most people. Diapers has increased 32% since Kamala took over. 47% of families reported struggling to afford diapers. 44 million people were living in food insecure households in 2022. That's a 31% annual increase in food insecure households, the largest one-year increase since 2008. So you're much more hungry. You're much more broke. You're working more and longer hours to get less under Biden-Harris. And now she wants your vote because she says she will fix this. Stunning, isn't it? Makes your stomach churn, too, doesn't it? All right, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we are going to get into the radical leftist pro-Hamas protesters that are ripping it up in Chicago tonight, with the latest on that. And I'm going to ask you, do you expect violence to break out in Chicago since there's over 100,000 protesters supposedly showing up? I will get to that in 3 minutes at 9:49 on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Chris Crock Show.
Genocide Joe, Killer Kamala, Baby Killer Blinken, and hundreds of other war criminals are here in Chicago to celebrate themselves.
Killer Kamala. Actually, she should be attacking them for mispronouncing her name. It's Killer Kamala, isn't it? Isn't it? Joe Biden's supposed to speak in the next, 5, 10, 15 minutes or so. When he does, we're going to jump in live. Looks like Raphael Warnock, the radical leftist progressive from Georgia, state U.S. Senator, I should say, is speaking right now. So I don't know when Biden. They're always late, but he was supposed to speak about 6 minutes ago. Once he does jump up there, we're going to be carrying it live on the Chris Crock Show. Not the whole thing, like 5-10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. Our number, of course, is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. So you just heard some of the folks speaking right there. And not speaking, but the ralliers, they're going nuts already. Activists ratchet up protests, throw water bottles as DNC set to officially kick off, Fox News reports. They crashed through the gates. I tweeted this this afternoon. They look like cockroaches. They're like cockroaches because they kick a section of the fencing open and they come in like cockroaches, like from everywhere. And they are like cockroaches. Actually, they're worse than cockroaches. Dare I say, I'd rather have cockroaches in my house than have them in my house. I should certainly actually believe. Because they'd burn it down or something. I don't know what. Anyway, this is very interesting. They're expecting over 100,000 protesters. They're saying this could be like 1968 DNC in Chicago all over again. I don't know. Nobody knows. Anybody that tells you they do is not listening. And the Chicago police is 1,000 officers short, and they are extremely dispirited. They're used to being horribly dumped on, mistreated, and arrested for doing their job properly. And I'm being serious, as you probably would imagine. So they're here we go. This is from Fox News today. They are turning ugly outside of the DNC, the protesters, as activists become increasingly aggressive outside the perimeter. Protesters wielding signs protesting U.S. support of Israel were throwing water bottles at cops, shaking the fence at the perimeter. Other protesters seen hanging off the fence in the security perimeter. Fox News heard one of the officers say, "We've got to get gas." And officers put the masks on. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff. And this is probably going to go bad. I don't know. By the way, you know what's interesting? Joe Biden's about to speak in the near future here tonight, in the next maybe, I'll guess, 5 to 20 minutes. And he literally, watch this. You know what he's doing tomorrow? He's gone tomorrow. He ain't staying at the DNC. He's leaving for vacation in California. He refuses to be a part of the DNC on nights 2, 3, and 4. I'm not kidding. And in fact, some of his top closest people have leaked to the Daily Beast, which is a liberal Democrat publication for news. And, quote, Joe Biden still, quote, stunned and pissed ahead of his DNC speech. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to focus on the radical leftist protesters. How would you feel? Here's my question for you on these folks going nuts. Do you expect violence to break out, I should say? Do you expect violence to break out in Chicago since there's supposedly over 100,000 protesters that are showing up? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. They're reportedly using Telegraph, which is an encrypted app so they can communicate with each other. The mayor, Brandon Johnson, is a socialist, anti-cop, socialist Democrat. He will not put these people in jail unless it gets, quote unquote, that bad. He will be willing to put them in jail. Number two, they have cash bail, which they have no cash bail, which means they're out. It means there's very few people they're putting in jail, as you would imagine, in a fallen city like Chicago. A beautiful city, an amazing city. My hometown, where I was born and raised in the city, and then raised in the suburbs. And my family is back in the city now, of all places. But I think this could be really, really bad. And the optics will be bad. I don't know. But here's my question. Do you expect violence to break out in Chicago, since there's over 100,000 protesters that are showing up? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I'll give you some details on the protests that are going on right now. I'll give you some info on the no cash bail thing. I'm also going to tell you what the latest is on the DNC coming up next, and Joe Biden's speech. As soon as it happens, we go live. We're going to care about 5-10 minutes, all right? And then we can remark and talk about it. That's coming up next as well on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.